So I have been wanting to do a video like this for a while where I like steal from other YouTubers, and by steal I do mean just base my videos off of subjects that other YouTubers already like deal with or typically deal with. An example would be if I like stole from Emmy Maids, I would most likely bake an unusual dessert. The reason I haven't done this already is just because I don't like being perceived. I know, it's like, but no, I don't like being perceived, especially not by the people that I want to steal from. Well, today I decided to push past that, and we'll be stealing from Funky Frog. No, Funky Frog Bait. For those of you who don't know who Funky Frog Bait is, Funky is a YouTuber who I only semi-recently found, but I binge watched a whole chunk of their videos in an embarrassingly short amount of time. They take internet drama topics, then condenses the information down to be easy to follow while also being entertaining. And don't forget they typically play a second character to break up the video and add some humor. Yeah, but I was going to skip that so we don't have to parody that part of their videos. Come on, we have to. It's their thing. Are you just me in a different outfit? No, I'm also wearing glasses. Anyway, back to what I was saying. When I was sitting alone in the darkness of my new place with the only light coming from Funky Frog's videos, a few topics stood out to me. So for this video, I'm going to be stealing internet drama topics from three separate Funky videos. Also, before we get started, I want to emphasize that we're not arguing with Funky. We're actually just throwing our 2 cents in alongside of their incredibly well-made videos. And if you haven't watched them yet, I do highly recommend it. The first on my list is something that I didn't hear about because I'm not personally on TikTok. Apparently a bit ago, people got mad at the idea of Rapunzel being played by an Indian woman. It wasn't even a real casting, it was just an idea. Funky talks about this pretty quickly in a video about messy TikTok drama. So why am I talking about this now? Well, I just heard people are back at it again. It being racist. Because a woman named Rachel Ziegler, cast as Snow White. I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know who this actress is, but apparently she's half Colombian. Yes, half Colombian. And that's enough to send people into a tizzy, apparently. People are shouting the same kind of bullshit with the fan casting and also the real casting of The Little Mermaid. I'm going to mainly talk about the Rapunzel incident for a few different reasons. For one, I'm German. Like, legally German, I have a passport and everything. I don't think I'm doing this right. No, you're not, and Rapunzel is also German. That's a big part of the thing that people brought up when she was cast as an Indian woman. Those people aren't actually focused on the fact that she is German, more as the fact that she is white. And even so I was a little bit too old, I also really enjoyed Tangled when it came out. Just like Rapunzel, I too was a little blonde-haired kid till my hair turned brown. Like, legitimately, this blonde turned this brown. And 2, I literally played Rapunzel in a classroom play because I loved Rapunzel more than my anxiety hated all the eyes on me. So because of those reasons, I feel like I can actually talk about this drama a bit more than I can personally talk about live action Little Mermaid or the Snow White casting. So to everyone freaking out about this, get over yourself. Even if Rapunzel was cast by an Indian woman or any woman of color, it doesn't magically change Tangled or any other adaptation of Rapunzel. Calm down. But the one clip that really pushed me over the edge to the point of me talking about this mostly forgotten drama was one TikTok Funky showed where someone said Rapunzel is a green-eyed blonde girl whose hair grows while singing, and it has healing powers, and when her hair gets cut, it turns brown. I had to read that because it was a long-ass quote that it doesn't really flow for me, I'm gonna be real, but neither does any of my words, so Fair. First of all, in Rapunzel's other stories, her hair isn't magic. It's grown because she is literally abused and neglected by the person who captured her into a tower. Her hair isn't magic. It's just long. So clearly this person is exclusively talking about the Disney's version of Rapunzel, which is fair because it would be a live action version of it. But still, do you think the story of a magic flower that got its powers from a literal drop of sun that later transferred its healing powers to Rapunzel because she drank tea made from it that magically turned her dark hair blonde and gave her magic healing powers would be too unrealistic if it was a brown woman? Her hair isn't naturally blonde. At the end of the movie, we see her parents with matching brown hair, her natural hair color. So why would that make her not be able to be played by an Indian woman or any woman of color? Also, if green eyes were really that important, the actress really could have just worn contacts or got them edited. The actress for Blanche Devereaux wore blue contacts just to make her eyes pop more. They already were blue, but there's more. My cousin is half Sri Lankan and has naturally green eyes, and I am German, and I don't. So the idea of someone who is not white having green eyes isn't ridiculous. That also doesn't stop a non-white actress from playing Rapunzel. If you were deeply affected by the idea of a woman of color playing a fictional character, please think about that. Think deeply about that. When you're at it, also think about how few Disney princesses are women of color, and how adding this representation can help a little girl feel connected to Rapunzel in a similar way that you did. Even if it saddens you a little, wouldn't you want a little girl to be able to have that same bond that you had with Rapunzel? That comment was mainly aimed at another TikTok that Funky shows of a lady gross crying because her inner child was upset by this supposed casting. That just couldn't be me. Let's move on. Luckily, the next topic deals with a lot less racism. Funky made a video all about home renovators and how they're ruining the houses that they're trying to improve or upgrade. I've actually seen one of the clips from this video outside of TikTok because people were that mad about it. Before we get started, I need to emphasize that I am in no way, shape, or form a handy person. The most I do is assemble furniture and hang things on the wall. And low-key, I struggled, but I did use a level to make sure they were straight, So in no way am I allowed to talk about the physical work that goes into home renovations. The first thing I want to talk about is the ugly fireplace people. This is the video I actually seen before. Do I like the finished product? Not really. That's not really what I wanted to talk about today. However, this brings forward the point that if someone was making something for themselves, no one should be able to bully them by saying it's ugly or that they destroyed the item. These comments do go both ways. A few years ago, I saw a man who customed a grandfather clock from the 90s, and people were saying that he made it ugly and he destroyed a rare item. However, to me, the finished clock did look cool. I really enjoyed it. I also think that particular clock wasn't super rare. It is limited though, but now it's a one-of-a-kind show-stopping piece of art. But I do get it. Altering items makes my stomach turn. I one time went out to buy a black shirt solely for the point of bleach dyeing it, and when I was there physically holding it, I almost chickened out. I'm glad I forced myself to do it anyways because now I absolutely love that shirt that has a one-of-a-kind design that I made. And I know I can go out and buy that same exact black shirt whenever I want. Sometimes we need to let people destroy items, even if we don't like it. Especially if they really just like the process and or want the finished item. Which brings me to the second part of the Funky Frog video, which is millennials. At one point of the video, the topic of millennials being the ones destroying their homes were brought up. So I'm a few years older than Funky, so I am a young millennial myself. And I know that Funky is just saying it as a joke, but he asks why it can't be a trend to make spaces more personal with more unique characteristics instead of turning a place with a lot of personality into a boring white cube? Well, I have the perfect person to talk about. Meet Rachel Maxey. She's a YouTuber who's a fantastic cosplayer and an amazing artist, who just happens to be a millennial. And one of her reoccurring themes in her videos is home renovation. From painting giant murals to adding tiny door-style outlets. However, unlike the previous TikToker, she actually lives in the house that she customizes. If I'm remembering correctly, she does actively say that the home she's currently in, she plans to be her forever home. But even if it turns out it isn't, she does currently live there, and she makes these decisions because she likes them so much. I personally really like her designs. She has an eye of taking something that's really ordinary and turning into 100% aesthetic. However, I chose Rachel Maxey because, just like the creators that Flunky mentions, she too uses IKEA furniture, and she even has used foam beams, albeit not to hang light fixtures. I'm with Flunky on that. That just seems really dangerous. The main differences between Rachel Maxey and those TikTokers is that Rachel Maxey makes her house to be pleasing to herself, not to be palatable for everyone or increase the value of her house to resell it, but because she actively really likes them. And I bet there's people out there that think that she is destroying perfectly good items and making ugly art. But who cares? It's her own house. I have had people hate my giant beetle, but that doesn't matter because I love him. Rachel Maxey has also brought up that she's mindful of her materials, reusing when she can reuse things, using trash when she has extra trash, and also trying not to permanently alter something if she can reuse it in the future.
I don't want to permanently ruin it. Part of reusing stuff and like upcycling is not permanently altering stuff you might use in the future.
At the end of the day, if you're mindful of your materials and you're really just doing it for you, then who cares what people say? And again, I know it was a joke, but to all the people saying how millennials are destroying their houses, please stop lumping everyone together based on a category that's just vaguely age range. And if anyone believes that the style that is shown in Flunky's video is the only home renovation style on the internet, I invite you to look at more niche aesthetic subsections on the internet. Like Rachel Maxey, who made a vintage kitchen despite using IKEA furniture. She also made a hobbit hole sewing room / guest room with a faux fireplace made out of foam. Like I said earlier, she is very mindful about what material she uses. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because in the fireplace that she made, she used trash that she had laying around. But I do get it. Personally, when I first heard that she uses foam and things, I was also not a big fan. But she also explains why she does it, being that it's cheaper and it's easier for her to use. But again, it's purely for aesthetics versus when the TikTokers used it to hang light. The third and thankfully last topic is the infamous Cakegate. I've heard most of Cakegate because of my sibling who had a friend who had a home bakery for a while. Let's rewind and start at the beginning. What is Cakegate? Cakegate is just some back and forth internet drama surrounding a cake baker. Multiple things were discussed, but actually started with the baker complaining about a customer who complained about the baker's cake. Then the customers replied with their side of the story, and then all hell broke loose. People started nitpicking and ripping the original baker to shreds. You can say what you want about it all, but a lot of people, including Flunky, made jabs about how the baker applied sprinkles to the cake, like it wasn't the exact way that Buddy from Carlos Bakery applies sprinkles to his cakes. Just saying. I will focus mainly on the cross-contamination, but before we get started, I wanted to point something out that I personally disagree with, which is insulting someone's appearance just because they did something that you disagree with. Funky makes a quip about the baker's eyebrows, which, as somebody who had really bad eyebrows for a very long time, I'm not okay with. Shout out to testosterone for making them better than ever. Maybe don't do that. Obviously, I'm not telling anyone what to do, but I think if someone does something wrong, you should insult their actions and not their appearance. But back to the actual baking drama. One of the baker's videos that people started jumping on showed some, what I would assume, I guess, chocolate batter left on a bowl that the baker was now using for one of the layers of a rainbow cake. From intolerances and allergies to just downright taste, as a baker, you shouldn't be cross-contaminating batters. I can admit when I'm wrong. I think thought was chocolate batter was actually just the red layer of the rainbow cake that was baked and now used for the blue batter. I think it's a lot better that it's the same exact cake batter being used. So I don't think that she is inherently being dangerous, but I am going to still use her as a way to get my point out there. Now, I'm not from West Virginia, where I believe the original baker was from, but I do know that home bakeries or cottage foods do have more lax restrictions than regular bakeries. I do have a bit of knowledge of official bakeries because I used to work in one for a short period of time. But don't worry, I won't get into that. Bitch, please. We both know you're just using this moment to establish a point that you're going to bring up in 2 seconds. Oh my god, you're still here? Yes, I am. These secondary characters last the whole video, and you know that. I also want to add for our viewers that I don't think the Cakegate woman actually classifies as a home baker, but since home bakeries have more lax rules, we're gonna go with it. Anyways, mainly it seems that West Virginia encourages home bakers to limit cross-contamination. But unlike the health code restrictions of my nearby state for regular bakeries, you don't seem to legally need to wash and sterilize all dishes in between uses. But I would prefer it. A lot. But it's not legally necessary. As somebody that has allergies and multiple friends with food intolerances, this is why small bakers or home bakers are just completely off the table for us, even if we ask about the baking environment. For example, when I worked at a bakery, they continuously broke health code violations. For example, we never washed or sanitized dishes after uses. I was explicitly reprimanded for using soap. Apparently it took too long. Another thing was the fact that they put multiple batters next to each other, including the peanut batter. When I told the person that was currently working the front desk, hey, warn people if they do ask. Just if they ask, not every single person. But apparently that wasn't okay because my boss reprimanded me and subsequently fired me because, and I'm quoting here, it's not our job to care if someone gets sick. So I argued and I got fired. And that was a legitimate bakery, not a home bakery. So you can only imagine if that's how regular bakeries here work, how would home bakeries work? It's all depending on the person who runs it. For example, one time I asked about a cupcake that someone made just down the street from my aunt's house. They said it would be fine, especially because I'm not actually allergic to any of the ingredients that were in the cupcake. However, I was allergic to the environment that they made the cupcake in. I got a horrific visual migraine and I brought it up to my aunt later on. She told me that the family had cats that liked putting their heads into bowls while people were in the kitchen. Yay. I explicitly asked for a reason, but they didn't see one because they didn't see anything wrong with having pets in the kitchen. Including my aunt, by the way, who knows I'm very allergic to cats. Now compare that to a gluten-friendly place that my sibling really enjoys. She really loves it despite it being gluten-friendly and not gluten-free. And despite this place being gluten-friendly and not gluten-free, they take a lot of precautions that I honestly don't know how they're not gluten-free instead of being gluten-friendly. They actually have separate fryers for gluten items and gluten-free items. They also get the paper straws that are also gluten-free. For years, I didn't even know paper straws had gluten in them. So when people say you can eat it, I can't actually trust it, which is a personal pet peeve of mine. Technically, the Cakegate woman didn't do anything wrong. But I guess this is a long-winded way of saying be mindful and considerate to when people ask you about intolerances or allergies. I want to be able to eat it too. I think you lost sight of your goal in the middle there, but I think you got there in the end, so good work. Thanks.